ورسوله الكريم أما بعد. After Ibrahim alayhi salam left his wife and son in Mecca, he went back to Jerusalem and continued doing his work of propagating deen, spreading the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every year he was allowed to come back once and visit his family in Mecca, but it had to be a very short visit and he would have to leave right away. So like this he continued coming back, and because this was the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he didn't really have a choice, but he knew all of this is building towards something very significant. Finally, when Ismail alayhi salam had grown up a little bit and Ibrahim alayhi salam was allowed to spend a little bit of time with him, he started teaching him and training him. And Ismail alayhi salam also had this great passion, this love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and for his deen. One day Ibrahim alayhi salam saw in his dream that he is slaughtering his son. Now when he woke up, he was very frightened, shocked, did not know what to do with this, because on the one side, the dreams of prophets are also a form of wahi, they're a form of revelation. On the other side, prophets do not take the lives of people. What to say of his own son? But he knew this was a command from Allah and it was a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he spoke to his son. Ya bunayya inni ara fil manami anni adbahuk. I am seeing myself slaughter you in my dream. Fanzur madha tara. What do you think about this? What's your interpretation of this? So Ismail alayhi salam, who is an extremely intelligent person, he himself is about to become a Nabi. He sees it as a command. He sees it as a command of Allah. So he responds by saying, Ya abati fa'al ma tu'mar. You are being commanded to do something here. You must do what you are being commanded. As far as I am concerned, you don't worry about me. Satajiduni insha'Allahu min as-sabirin. I'll be patient. If this is the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then the best possible thing we could do is to fulfill this command and to please Allah. So Ibrahim alayhi salam takes his son to the place where he is going to slaughter him, outside Mecca, in this valley called Mina. And as he is going, Shaitan keeps coming and frightening him, putting all kinds of thoughts and doubts in his mind, in his heart. And Ismail alayhi salam keeps to the plan, but Ibrahim alayhi salam, being the father, gets very scared, but he knows this is Shaitan trying to mislead him, misguide him. So he picks up handfuls of stones and throws them at Shaitan. And this happens 3 times. In some narrations it's mentioned that Shaitan went to Hajar as well and said, do you know where Ibrahim has taken your son? Do you know what he's about to do to your son? She said, look, he's not going to do anything that's against the command of Allah. And whatever that is, that's good enough for me. So now Ismail alayhi salam is laid down with his face to the ground. فَلَمَّا أَسْلَمَا, both father and son submitted to this command of Allah. وَتَلَّهُ لِلْجَبِينَ. Ibrahim alayhi salam put Ismail alayhi salam with his face down. And he took the knife and he started moving the knife on the throat of his son to cut it open, but the knife wouldn't cut. And again of course, he would want this to be over. This was a It's inexplicably difficult thing to do. He wants it to be done with, but this knife is not cutting. And again he starts applying pressure, but the knife just won't cut, and the knife has been sharpened. At one point, some narrations mention that Ibrahim a.s. got frustrated and he threw the knife. How come this thing won't cut? Then he went back, picked up the knife and did this movement to cut the neck, to cut the throat of his son, closed his eyes, and he felt the knife cutting something. And very quickly he slaughtered. And then he opened his eyes, not wanting to see what the outcome was. But when he opened his eyes, it wasn't Ismail alayhi salam who was lying there with his throat split open, but rather it was a goat, it was an animal. وَفَدَيْنَاهُ بِذِبْحٍ عَظِيمٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replaced Ismail alayhi salam with an animal. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called out to him, وَنَادَيْنَاهُ أَن يَا إِبْرَاهِيمُ قَدْ صَدَّقْتَ الرُّؤْيَا. You have fulfilled the command that was given to you in this dream. So this was the short version of the story of that sacrifice. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sometimes asks us for sacrifice, but He doesn't really take it from us. He might ask us for something that seems really, really daunting, really dangerous, really frightening, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't test us more than our ability. Sometimes some of those commands that Allah asks us to do, it could be regarding prayers and worship, it could be regarding fulfilling someone's right, it could be regarding manners and maybe suppressing anger, or maybe forgiving and forgetting. Sometimes they seem really, really difficult. They seem like, I'll never be able to do that. But when you muster up the courage and actually do it, you find that it's much easier than you thought it was. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does command us to make certain sacrifices, to do certain things. But Allah Azza wa Jalla never really takes anything away from us. And whenever He asks us to give Him something, He's only waiting there to give us much, much more in return. And as we will see, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Ibrahim alayhi salam in return for this sacrifice, even though he didn't actually sacrifice his son, but because he was prepared to do it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevated his status and gave him much more back. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the understanding of this and the ability to make the decision to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala regardless of the sacrifice that is involved. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه